now! What's up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka ReviewKingMB, and I am here to review yet another Star Trek movie, but this time it's the reboot! Yes, Star Trek is a 2009 film that was directed by Mr. J.J. Abrams, and the plot is, well, in some senses, this is a prequel to the original series, where we see a young James T. Kirk, we see a young Spock, young Uhura, just the whole cast, all of them played by younger versions of themselves. We see them, how they were in Starfleet Academy, how they came together, became the original crew on the Enterprise that we know and love, but it is a little different. Some of the relationships are a little different, and the reason for that is because we have this Romulan captain of his ship named Nero, who's played by Eric Bana, and he has come from the future through this time vortex portal black hole thing, and he has this vendetta against Spock. So he's hell-bent on getting revenge on Spock, except for his beef isn't with this timeline Spock, it's with the original timeline Spock. So our group has to figure out why he's doing this, how to stop him, combat him. Now, what I think of this rebooted Star Trek movie is, I love this movie. I do. I can't help but say that I love this film. This was technically my very first Star Trek movie that I had ever seen at the time when I saw it. And I knew, I don't want to say next to nothing about the original show. I knew very little. But especially then, not knowing as much as I might know now, I loved it, just jumping into this world, and it seemed like a fresh new take, a fresh new start on the mythology and the history and the backstory. Just a great way to get into the series if you want to get into it. But now, after watching all of the original stuff for the first time and then coming into this reboot, I have a whole new appreciation for this film. In fact, I think I love it even more after all of the history that's built in with it. Let me first talk about the very beginning. We see Chris Hemsworth as Kirk's father, who's on his own Enterprise, and he, in the events of it, becomes the captain of it. And just seeing a young Chris Hemsworth, like just a couple of years before he became Thor, became big and popular, like, that's pretty funny. But he gets killed in action being a hero, and he makes sure that his wife and their unborn son make it off that ship. And that son ends up being James T. Kirk, who was eventually played by Chris Pine. And I think as far as trying to cast a young Captain Kirk, James Kirk, as far as trying to cast a young William Shatner, they couldn't have done a better job than to get Chris Pine, in my opinion. Not only does he somewhat resemble William Shatner, but just the personality, the character. I love seeing this version of him, or this young version of him, where he is a little cocky, he is a little arrogant, he's full of himself. He's a ladies' man, even if those ladies include aliens. Why not? The green alien's pretty hot. And I love seeing this different approach, this different take on how he does eventually end up joining Starfleet Academy. We get Zachary Quinto as Spock, and this probably wasn't an easy casting to do, but Zachary Quinto is also, I think, great casting for this character, because not only is he stepping into the shoes of Leonard Nimoy, not only is he playing that Vulcan side that doesn't have emotion, that goes through everything with logic, because of events that are changed here, because of things that happen to his home planet and his parents, his family, this Spock, we get so much more emotion out of him. And I think seeing a Spock that does act more on emotions is very interesting, very different. And I welcome that. Winona Ryder playing his mom is something that just was like, oh, I didn't realize she was old enough to play somebody's mom, but I guess she is. We also get Carl Urban as McCoy Bones. And Carl Urban, I like him as an actor in general, but seeing him take over this role from DeForest Kelley, and seeing how he just perfectly delivers the lines, the sarcastic lines, or the pessimistic worldview that McCoy had. He's perfect. He, like, a lot of this cast, a lot of these actors know how to do not just really an impression of the original cast, but they know how to embody what those characters meant and the interactions with each other. It felt like a big moment to see Bones and Kirk become friends, meet each other for the very first time. Zoe Saldana as Uhura, it's very well documented how much I was kind of getting on the original Uhura, that they didn't do much with her. But in these movies, they do stuff with her. She has a lot more as far as dialogue or even just a presence in the story. The fact that they make her date Spock is something that I never even would have thought to do with these two characters, but it makes them both equally interesting, especially because Spock, like, this is something that, to see him in a relationship with a human woman is very different. And I like especially the one scene where she's trying to comfort him and ground him and say, I'm here for you, anything you need, and he can't quite fully be there with her, even though he wants to. I just like that dynamic a lot. You have Sulu, played by John Cho, and I think that's great casting. You finally get Sulu doing some cool stuff, like the action scene that he has, where he gets to be a badass. Stuff like that you didn't get to see from these characters at all in the original series. You have Anton Yelkin as Chekhov. I love the accent that he's able to get down perfectly as Chekhov, and he's very comedic. He's very young as well, but he's smart, he's intelligent. A lot of good moments came from the Chekhov character. Simon Pegg as Scotty. Once again, great casting just from the humor point of view. When he comes into the movie, when he comes into the story, onto the ship, he feels like the Enterprise feels whole. You get the whole cast there. Now let's talk about the villain. Captain Nero, the Romulan. This is an alien villain that I can get behind. That I've been waiting for all of these Star Trek movies, and I finally have an alien villain that I'm afraid of, that I fear, and that I understand from every point of view of what he's going through. The fact that he comes from the original timeline, and he accidentally time traveled to this time, and he so hates Spock. He so hates what happened with his own planet, that his planet got destroyed and everyone he knows and loves is dead. So, like, there's a part of him that understands that hasn't happened yet and that he is in the past, but there's also a part of him that can't forget that feeling of watching his planet die and the pain that he went through. So he's still very angry. He still feels like it happened. And I love that. I love just how emotional Eric Bana gets. This is one of his best performances, I think, that I've personally ever seen. I was able to get really into just the Romulans as a whole because they had futuristic technology with their ships and their weapons that made them that much more of a threat. And the whole time travel reboot idea is so genius, so brilliant. If you want to reboot a beloved franchise, a beloved series, but if you want to do it to welcome in new fans like me, or please the original fans and keep them happy and not piss them off and give them a reason for why a reboot or a reimagining or retelling of these characters and stories makes sense. And I think they did that perfectly. And look how many movies since this has tried to redo that same reboot time travel feel. X-Men has done it. The Terminator movies have done it. A bunch of movies have tried to do what this movie started off doing, and you have to give them credit for that. But not just rebooting the timeline, the franchise. They were somehow able to get Leonard Nimoy back as Spock, the original Spock. The scene where he comes in and interacts with young Kirk and just sort of brushes him up on everything and their past as friends. And then the scene that he has with young Spock. Like, I love how they were able to work his character into this film. There's so much that I love about this movie. The action, the special effects are amazing. It's so fast-paced. There's so much going on. I love it. What more can I say about this Star Trek film besides the fact that I fucking love this movie? Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the Star Trek reboot? Do you love it as much as I do, or do you not like it? Who knows? Maybe there is one person who somehow does not like that movie. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!